On the surface, Honda's new Hornet lineup seems to check all the boxes. Two beautiful naked street fighters dripping in tech, features, and usable power for the everyday hooligan. And whether you get the more approachable 750 or the Mac Daddy 1000 SP, both of them come in at suspiciously great price points. Like, I'm talking only 8 grand for the 750 and somehow only 11 grand for the 1000 SP. It all seems almost too good to be true, and maybe it is. And that's exactly what I'm going to be finding out here over the next 2 days, not as a YouTuber, not as a reviewer, but as a consumer. Because as soon as I heard that Honda was finally bringing these to the States, I knew I had to have one. So when Honda invited me out for 2 full days and roughly 400 miles of ripping these things through the streets and mountains of California, exactly where they were made to shine, I knew it was my perfect opportunity to pick these things apart, find all the flaws, and talk myself out of or into buying one. I'm a D1 hater. We're saving the 1000 for day 2, but for day 1, let's go ahead and hop on the 750 and see what we think. All right, boys, moment of truth. Time to find out where Honda went wrong with these things, if they did at all. Now, I'll be honest, we're already about 2 hours into this ride, but we got about 7 or 8 hours left, I believe. As I said, we're on the 750, and tomorrow I'll be swapping to the Big Daddy 1000. Now, I'm gonna be talking about my thoughts on both of these bikes as we go throughout both of the days, but also at the end of the video, we need to make sure that for each of the bikes, we have a top 3 pros, top 3 cons, and we're also gonna come to a conclusion as to who I think each of these bikes is made for, and which one of them, if either, is made for me.
A few moments later.
Oh, this thing is perfect for back here, baby. Oh man, I don't want to give away too many impressions when I haven't put an incredible amount of miles on this thing yet, but seriously, it is perfect back here. Now, you are going to hear me making some probably inadvertent comparisons between this and the CB650R, the E-Clutch model, because that's the last press ride that I did with Honda, and that's also one of the naked bikes that I was considering for my next little like hooligan bike. But I say that to say that so far in stuff like this, I have found that the 750 is so much smoother than the 650. I made comments with the 650 that it was a little herky-jerky at like lower RPMs and such. A little jerky. Ooh, a little herky-jerky there. There's some herky-jerky in third, and I have not found that with this. This is a 2-cylinder, not a 4-cylinder, so you don't have to wind it out to get the power quite as much. It's punchy down low, but still wants you to wind it out, which is nice. It feels like a much more broad power band than the 650, which is more up top. I'm much more comfortable and used to this. Vibin'! I have to remember to not try to keep up with him, though, because he's a much better rider than I am, as I mentioned on my previous video. Much more experienced, proficient, and smooth than your boy. But oh my god, ladies and gentlemen, look at the views! All right, boys, we need to talk. We are about halfway through our day. We've been out for about 5 hours now, and I think we have about 3 or 4 hours left. We've stopped for lunch, and in this time, I've already found some issues with the bike. And like I said, we got to pick this thing apart, so we got to talk about it. And let's start off with the positives, so we're not starting off on a negative foot. Honestly, this bike is great. My favorite thing about it is the power plant, which is the 750. That is the same engine that's in the Transalp 750. Most parallel twins are very punchy down low and kind of lose some of their juice up top. However they have this tuned, it is not that way. It has the grunt down low, but still pulls all the way up to the red line, which is great. It's honestly like the most usable power curve I've felt in a while, and it's fantastic. The handling of this bike is insane. They were throwing numbers at us about the rake and the wheelbase and all this stuff. I don't care about that. I just care how it feels. And I gotta say, this is a 750 that feels small and light like a 500, but has the power of a 750. You can throw this thing around like it's nobody's business. It transitions from corner to corner super well. See, and then watch, it'll just dip right over into that. dip right over into that. It's so easy to like flick it over and transition in this tighter stuff. Honestly, I'm quickly falling in love with this bike. The rider triangle's good. I don't feel any pressure on my wrists at all. My legs are tucked up, but not too tucked up. The bars could stand to be a little bit wider, I will say that. And actually, since I'm talking about little nitpicky stuff like that, let's get into the bread and butter of this video and talk about some of the stuff that sucks about this bike. The seat is not comfortable after like an hour and a half, if that. Obviously, stock seats are always gonna need some room for improvement, but this stock seat is pretty freaking firm. When you're going in the twisties, you don't feel it as much because you're transferring weight from cheek to cheek, if you know what I'm saying.
What?
But when you're going in a straight line, in no time flat, your butt starts hurting. But if I'm being totally honest, the thing that I think I hate the most about the bike so far is gonna be the stock suspension. I haven't played around with it too much or adjusted the preload, which is all you can adjust on the 1000, which we'll talk about tomorrow. It is rebound, dampening, and preload adjustable, I believe. This is just preload. Now, it's an $8,000 bike, so what can you expect out of the suspension? But I have noticed that, you know, around the like city streets, it's totally fine. We actually were all talking about how great it is. In turns, it's fine. It doesn't feel sketchy or anything. A little bit of sketchy road through here. A little bumpy, but it handled it well, dang. Ooh. Bump, but I didn't get too disrupted, so that's good. But on some of the back roads, we're hitting like bigger bumps, like from tree roots coming up or whatever, and getting a little airborne on one of them, maybe a couple of them. Oh, that's the... Oh, dude, I actually got a little air off that. That's the tree root they were talking about. I found it. Oh, that could have been the tree root. Holy shit. I might have sung the praises of the suspension too soon, boys. You know, if you're in a straightaway, especially at speed, and you hit some bumps, it gets a little uneasy, especially on the highway going there. We did a decent little stretch on the highway, and we were in the HOV lane, and it kind of had like whoops, and we were getting bumping and jarring my brain around. This part is bumpy as shit. Damn! Bump, 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 bump. Bro, this shit is so bumpy, I can hardly see straight. So that's probably the biggest downside so far. Yeah.
You got a meat, cheese, and bun only burger?
No, I got a Reuben.
Oh, Reuben, that's right.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm handling lunch business. But yeah, I think those are really the only complaints that I've come up with so far. Sorry, I'm looking at my phone to make sure I'm in the frame. And if those are the only complaints I've come up with so far, I think we're doing pretty freaking great. Like I said, all things considered, I'm absolutely falling in love with this bike. And we are off once again. Now, I've realized that in the excitement of the day, I have not talked about something quite important yet, which I talked about at the beginning of the video, and that would be the price point of this bike. This bike is only $8 grand, and everything that you get for that price is pretty crazy. You get the incredible power plant that I was already talking about a little bit, but you also get self-canceling turn signals, which I haven't been able to fully figure out yet. We'll see if it does it here. Okay, so the turn signal's on. We take the turn. I'm not touching anything. And it's off. Sweet. I'm still unsure of how exactly it works. At first I thought that it was a certain number of flashes and then it goes off, but sometimes it is more flashes than others, so I'm like, oh, maybe it senses the lean angle, but sometimes you can like change lanes without leaning too much and it still turns off. Either way, it is a super cool function to have, and the wind noise is probably too much to continue what I was going to say on the highway, so please hold. All right, in case the highway audio is not usable, which something tells me it was not, let's talk about the features that you get for the $8,000 price tag, because there are a lot. So this thing comes with a quick shifter up and down. You can see I just clicked it down, auto blipped for me. Of course, you got the same fancy screen that comes on the E-Clutch bikes and the new Rebel 1100s, which means that you have a bunch of different power modes. It comes with Sport, Standard, and Rain, and then 2 different user modes that you can program yourself for power, engine brake, and traction. I've been in sport mode all day because why would I be in anything else? And having this screen also means that you have Honda's Road Sync app that you can download, which will give you turn-by-turn instructions on the screen. Only downside is that you have to use their navigation. You can't hook it up to like Apple or Waze or anything like that. Oh, you can set the quick shifter for how firm you want it to be up and down. I think I can already tell that I prefer the soft setting because you just barely touch it and it shifts up or down. The other settings, there's a little bit of lag with the upshift and such. Oh, now we're boogieing a little bit, so I don't think I can really talk. Of course, it comes standard with ABS. Ooh, which I just almost activated right there as I'm talking. USB charger under the seat. Under the seat is kind of a weird place for it to be, but either way, it's nice that it has that capability. I gotta stop talking because I can't focus on this stuff and I'm in a slight food coma after lunch. Ooh, it just flicks through this stuff, dude. Oh my god, though. And for someone like me who like is kind of a good rider but doesn't have any experience with this kind of stuff, this bike is just so confidence inspiring. Like, it's very forgiving. It's not like, you know, too snappy or herky-jerky on the downshifts. That was a shit-ass line. I keep saying I shouldn't be talking and then continue talking. But yeah, it's very confidence inspiring, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. What you lack in skill, the bike kind of helps pick up with all of like the, I don't know, it's just really easy to ride, you know? I've been riding for almost or over 10 years and I'm no stranger to power, but I'm kind of a stranger to like this sporty stuff, and it makes me feel at home, even more than the CB 650 E-clutch bike did. We made it back. What a ride, what a day, and I've now hidden myself in a back alley so that Honda doesn't hear me talking about all of the problems that I have come to realize with this bike. It's not as bad as it sounds, but we definitely have to talk about it while the thoughts are still fresh and the raw emotions are still there. So the last time that we talked, I think I said something along the lines of the suspension being the thing that I dislike the most about the bike, but that has changed. This seat, honestly, I never want to sit upon this ever again. The seat is terrible, and I think I already mentioned that and said that it wasn't a huge deal, you know, like OEM seats are never super comfortable, but this seat, oh my gosh, dude. We were just out for 8 hours. We were probably on the bike for about 6. We took a bunch of highway coming back, and you could see pretty much everyone in the group standing up to get their butts off the seat, stretching their legs out to get comfortable. Same. Obviously, this bike isn't meant to be super comfortable. You're not doing touring on it, but the seat, I cannot say how happy I am to be back at the hotel and be able to sit in a regular chair or on my bed or just stand, honestly. Oh my freaking cheeks! My butt cheeks hurt. My butt cheeks. And speaking of all the highway riding, I also cannot say enough how much I missed having the fairing of my bike, because we were getting battered on the highway. It felt like we were riding straight into the wind. A windscreen would be real nice right about now. I'm just mentioning that because, like I said, this is more of a video of me talking about what I'm looking for out of a bike. Obviously, if you're in the market for a naked bike, you're going to be like, yeah, no shit. It doesn't have a windshield, it's a naked bike. But damn, did I miss that fairing. One of the OEM accessories that Honda has is a little meter visor that goes like right here to, for one thing, cover up how that kind of like just looks like an iPad sitting there. But also, I think it should hopefully deflect a little bit of the wind. Obviously not a whole lot, but any wind deflection would be a good thing after what we just experienced on the freeway. And then another thing that I am not the only one who has noticed this is that my foot happened to be resting on or hitting the exhaust a decent amount. You can see my shoe marks right there. How much of that has to do with me not being a naked bike sporty guy and not knowing how to hold my feet, and how much of it is just like weird exhaust placement, who knows? But aside from all of that, which could totally be a mixture of user error and personal preference, honestly, this was such a treat to ride. I actually love this bike more than I expected. This bike is just so confidence inspiring. If this is like your first naked bike or your first kind of like venture into the sporty scene, I can't say enough things about how confidence inspiring this bike was for me today. Today was far and away a net positive. It was way more great things that I experienced with this bike than negative things. But like I said, this video is about picking apart every single little bad thing I can find about it to try and talk myself out of buying it. And I gotta be honest, I'm leaning towards this one. I know I haven't ridden the 1000 yet, but hearing some of the things that some of the other folks have said about the 1000 today, let's just say I have an idea how tomorrow's gonna go. I don't wanna give away any more than that, so I will see you tomorrow for day 2 on the 1000. Good morning, I'm on the 1000 today, and once again I am starting things off when we're already at our first coffee stop. So I've already gotten to experience this bike a bit, and I gotta say, what a totally different experience than the 750. Obviously we'll talk more about Obviously, we'll talk more about this later once I get some more miles on it, but the power on this is insanely different than the 750. Way more power, but so far, I gotta say, I don't want to say too much so far, but I'm loving the power delivery. I'm loving the power delivery of the 750 way more, but I'm loving the power of the 1000 way more. But look at how freaking gorgeous this bike is. The gold and black combo always hits. I gotta say, I think I like the other headlight, the 750 headlight, better than this, but lots of the styling of this bike was, you know, unironically modeled after a Hornet. So it's supposed to have the kind of bug light front end, the antenna mirrors, and then you can see this one's much wider in the tank area, supposed to look like a Hornet dive bombing something, and then a much higher, pointier back end like the Stinger. And so far I can tell that it definitely feels like a bigger bike. Like when you sit on it, it feels like a bigger bike, but when you're riding it, not so much. It's still pretty nimble, but definitely more planted than the 750. I'm kind of torn. I came into this thinking that the 1000 would be for me because I want to go fast and do fast boy stuff. I don't know. So far, the 750 might have my heart. Time will tell. We still have, I don't know, maybe 8 hours, 7 hours of riding left to do today. So I'm going to go get some coffee down so that I can be a little bit more coherent, and then we'll get back on the road and continue picking this thing apart. All right, so I'm going to be honest. Even though I'm on the 1000, I think I'm going to be taking it a little bit easier today because I'm a little bit sleepier, and to be totally honest, the 750 I was not intimidated by, but the 1000 I am a bit intimidated by, so better safe than sorry. And while we have this view, obviously it's the same screen, same functions, everything like that as the 750. Only difference is that the 1000 does not have the self-canceling turn signals. Reason being that the 750 engine is based off of the Transalp engine, or they share an engine. So obviously that whole like wiring harness and system is already set up for self-canceling turn signals. Whereas this engine is just a CBR 1000RR engine from 2017, tuned a little bit different. Obviously that did not have self-canceling turn signals, so this one does not either. And actually, I'm gonna switch this to standard mode. I've been in sport mode this whole time, but I've noticed the throttling's a little funky, and somebody recommended trying standard mode and said that that ends up being a little smoother, they found. So we'll see. I'm gonna be honest and level with you guys here. At this point, I was trying not to jump to conclusions, having only put about an hour and a half on the bike so far, but I honestly was not having a good time on this bike. As smooth as the 750 was yesterday, the 1000 was the exact opposite. It was damn near impossible to keep this thing smooth through turns because it just felt like the fueling or the throttle by wire or something was off. The throttle response is just so jumpy and weird, and I just couldn't keep it smooth to save my life. I keep saying the 750 is confidence inspiring, and to be totally honest, so far this bike, whatever the opposite of confidence inspiring is this. And I was having a bit of a mental struggle trying to figure out how much of it is the fact that I know this bike had to be very restricted to meet US standards, so I figured that those restrictions were playing a big part in it, but then the other part of me was trying to convince myself that maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, and I'm just not used to the power delivery of an inline 4, mixed with the fact that we were in very tight, kind of slower stuff where a 1000 isn't meant to shine, but I couldn't shake the fact that it just didn't feel right. Like I try to ease into the throttle, but it doesn't ease, it snaps. And it turns out that I was right, so I'll let somebody who actually knows what they're talking about explain it. Here's a video from Nate at Two Wheel Dyno Works. They're one of the top tuners in the country, and they already have one of the CB1000 SPs at their shop. And here's what they found when they did the preliminary dyno run on this bike.
I can almost guarantee that this is the throttle-by-wire system shutting down here. This is throttle-by-wire interference, and this may be as well. The throttle-by-wire mapping restrictions are actually even worse in some of the lower gears. In like second and third, when you get on the gas, you can feel like this flat spot, and then a surge of power, and then another flat spot, and then it finally starts to take off on you. And we can see that in the dyno graph as well in second and third gear. And this is what I'm talking about. You got this kind of flat spot. It's actually a dip here, and then a little bit of a surge, and then another flat spot, and then it finally gets going, and again just falls flat on top because of the throttle-by-wire system. This feels like junk for such an amazing motorcycle.
As validating as it feels seeing that dyno graph after the fact, and knowing that I wasn't going crazy, and that the fueling and the throttle-by-wire mapping really are just that bad, and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, knowing that I'm sure all of this could be fixed with an ECU flash in the future, that didn't change what myself and the other reviewers were feeling in the moment. So here's kind of like a behind the scenes live look at a few of us talking about the problems and what the solution might be at our first photo stop. Do you hate it as much as I hate it?
Kinda.
I f***ing hate it. That bike, if you're in the wrong gear, it helps you through it. This bike, it's like, if you're in the wrong gear, you're screwed. You better figure it out on your own. I started out in sport mode, now I'm in standard. Both of them, like standard's a little smoother now, but still, like I'm mid-corner, even the slightest throttle input, it's like chopping, and I can't stay like smooth through a turn. I thought I was gonna fall in love with this one, but I just want the 750 back.
I wouldn't be in sport mode in that right now.
I'm in standard and it still sucks ass. Like the main thing is just at these speeds, I can't find a gear where it's not so like choppy.
Yeah, the on-off throttle is pretty jumpy.
Yeah, like that. It was so smooth. This, it's.
Is there a rain mode?
I'm not putting it in rain mode though.
Rain mode. You might be shocked. No, I'm serious. Like it'll totally soften the throttle. You might be way faster. It might make it way more fun.
But if I'm in rain mode, I might as well be on a 750, you know? I'd rather be on a 750 in sport mode than a 1000 in rain mode. Like rain mode is smoother, but you still don't get the full top end.
I feel like there's also something with the seating position, especially coming downhill, that we've got a little extra weight on our wrist, so it's harder even to do throttle control.
Yeah.
I've been trying to kind of move my hand from here on the bar to kind of a little bit more up in my fingers.
Yeah.
A little more of like a fine tune.
I've found just like in general with this one, it feels like I slide forward more and I can't like grip the tank to stop it from happening.
Yeah. It requires a kind of, a weird like core engagement. And
yeah.
But I do feel like, again, with the sweepers, I'm able to kind of get down in a little bit more of an aggressive stance with this one.
Yeah.
Anytime it's a tight corner or a downhill corner, I feel like I'm buried into and it's hard to get the throttle control in the way.
Yeah.
Did you put it in rain mode?
Yeah. And it's so much smoother, but you know how with some bikes, if it's in rain mode, it'll make it less powerful down low, but at full throttle, it's still all the way there. In rain mode on this, it's way smoother through this, but the top end is like neutered all the way down. Like I opened it up thinking that it would still wind out at the top, and it didn't. Yeah, it's just neutered.
It feels so much better in rain mode.
Yeah, it's crazy. But then, like, the top end is so, like, cut down that, like, I took the turn in second, super smooth, and then hammered it out, and it just, there was, like, nothing. See, I have it wide in rain mode, and he was pulling away from me on the 750. So you have to have it in rain mode for it to be smooth enough for the turns, but the trade-off is that then the 1000 ends up being slower than the 750. I'm sure it goes without saying, but by the time we stopped for lunch, my outlook on the 1000 was less than promising. I'm a D1 hater of the 1000 SP, but little did I know, all that was about to change because one of the other riders mentioned that they had been playing around with the custom rider modes and actually found settings that seemed to be the perfect trade-off between full power and getting rid of as much of the weird throttling as possible.
I don't know if you're interested in playing with it, but I've set up a custom mode on this with max power and also max engine braking, and then wherever you want traction 2 or 1. But maybe it's placebo, but to me it kind of seems like it helps settle the bike down so that when I rotate back on throttle, it's not quite as jumpy.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of extra like natural slowdown to it.
I'll try that because I had done one kind of opposite where I turned engine brake all the way down thinking that was the problem. So I'll give that a shot. Between those new settings and the fact that after lunch the ride opened up into much faster sweeping stuff where I could wind the bike out a little bit more, I found myself having a whole new appreciation for the 1000. It was like I finally got it. Woo! Got the front wheel coming up, baby! that is a wrap on day 2, and I take back everything. Well, maybe not everything, but I take back lots of what I said about the 1000 SP earlier, and I don't think it was necessarily the bike. Well, some of it was, but lots of it was just me needing to get to know the bike, if you will. The way I just described it to somebody is that it feels like the 750 is the kind of bike where it's the kind of person that as soon as you meet them, everyone gets along with them right off the bat, and the 1000 is kind of like that overbearing, loud, egotistical dude that lots of people don't really understand at first, but once you get to know them one-on-one, it kind of turns into like one of the coolest guys you've ever met. He always gets you to party too much and you always end up getting in trouble, but eventually you come to love him. Now, I know that up until this point, this video has been a bit of a roller coaster of emotions. One second I hate a bike, the next second I love a bike, then I hate it again, then I love it again. But that's why I like doing kind of these come along for the test ride with me, kind of like raw experience it with me videos, because you're not just getting a chopped up final result, you're seeing kind of the struggles along the way, the things that I fall in love with along the way. The point that I'm getting at is that it's finally time to fulfill our promise that I made at the beginning of the video. Let's talk about the top things that I love and the top things that I hate about both of the bikes. Then we'll talk about who I think each bike is made for and which bike is made for me, if either of them even are. But in order to do that, I think we need to go back to the drawing board, literally. When I first had this idea, I thought it would be a fun and silly way to concisely get all my thoughts from the 2 days down on paper for you guys, but now in the moment I'm realizing how bland the backdrop is and how reflective the whiteboard is, and I'm starting to regret my decision. The top pro for the 750 is, of course, value. You can't talk about these bikes without talking about value. I've talked about it enough, but for 8 grand, all the features that you get out of this platform are insane. Number 2, the power plant. We talked about this a whole lot. This is one of my favorite engines I've ever experienced. I love it. Honda, put it in every bike you have. Number 3, we cannot forget the handling of the bike. The handling and feel are incredible. I already said it. It feels like a 500 in how light and nimble and flickable it is, but it still has the power of the 750. It honestly just feels amazing. The worst thing about it is the seat. I never want to sit upon this ever again. In the number 2 spot, we have the suspension, which we talked about at the beginning of the day and then kind of got away from at the end of the day. Again, it's an $8,000 bike, so what can you expect out of the suspension? But there definitely were times that it was a bit jarring. And for the third one, I really had to think on it, and what I came up with is that I don't own one. Honestly, I love the bike a lot, and I want one, but I don't own one yet, and that is a big con. Best thing about the 1000 SP, again, has got to be the value. All the features that you get are essentially the same thing as what you get out of the 750. However, you don't get the, what is it that you don't get? Self-canceling turn signals, and it doesn't show the ambient temperature. But I did not talk in the video about the fact that you get Brembo brakes up front and an Öhlins shock out rear. Out rear, is that even the right wording? Both of those things are incredible features for only 11 grand. It's actually kind of crazy. The second best thing has got to be the power. The power over the 750. And this one might be controversial, but for the third spot, I put styling. I know lots of people don't like the styling, and myself, I even said that I kind of like the headlight on the 750 better than on the 1000 SP, but I just can't get over how much more aggressive it looks, and those gold accents are to die for. So I think they really hit the nail on the head with the styling. The top cons, you guys, there's no surprise here. The throttle response. Do you hate it as much as I hate it?
Kinda.
All I can say is that I really hope an ECU flash comes out that fixes that, because if that does get fixed, I think it'll be a fantastic bike, but I can't look over the fact that I was struggling with that the entire ride, essentially. And this one might be controversial also, but for the number 2 spot, I put lackluster. Like, if I'm getting a 1000cc bike, I want it to like speak to my soul, you know? I want it to just viscerally, I want to feel something inside me. Pause. And I just didn't really get that with this bike. And the final con is the fact that I feel like if I got one, I would get a felony every single time that I rode it. To some of you, that might not be a con. I guess you can only get a felony if you stop. But for me, I feel like it would be dangerous having that level of hooliganism in my garage. Now, as for who I think each bike is designed for, I'm gonna explain it in the best way possible with a little thing that I came up with on the trip, and I'll let you guys decipher it. The 750 to me feels like the kind of bike that you get when you just wanna shred some back roads on the way to your local coffee shop, but the 1000 feels like the bike that you get to commit felonies on the way to pick up Red Bull from your local gas station. Read into that however you want. Now, as for which bike is meant for me, I think it's a pretty obvious answer, and that would be the CB750. I just could not stop singing the praises of that bike the entire time. I think it's absolutely perfect for the kind of riding that I do and for the kind of riding that most people are gonna do. The 1000 I think has a really good chance to be a great bike, but again, I'm gonna wait until I see any sort of like ECU tuning or something to smooth out the throttle before I say that it actually is a great bike now. It could be the bike for me at some point, but right now, the 750 has my heart. Shout out to the Patreon members for making all of this possible. I could not be living these insane YouTuber dreams without you. And if you want to join Patreon as well and support the channel in that way, check out patreon.com/lifeofburch. I'll catch you on the next one. Love you guys. Peace.
Oh, so basic, hope you play this. Damn, I prayed it. Nice song, and I became this. Old souls fake it. Paid those placements. Fuck shit. And I'm still waiting on the brighter days. Been a minute, been rough many times more. And I'm kicking rocks to a sky of gray. Praying hard, talk to me before I'm done for.